Hello everybody and welcome to Republic of Play News for the 5th of April 2018. For the uninitiated, Republic of Play News is a weekly news roundup show every single week on Thursday, hosted by me, Darren, on the youtube.com/Republic of Play channel. Without further delay, let's roll the intro. We don't have an intro. Well, why not? Budget? Well, how much did we pay you? Great first day. Get the hell out of here. Okay, so we don't have an intro. Let's open up with new releases. Now, pending feedback from last week, we had really good feedback and we were talking about new releases and how long this section should go on for. So we're going to make it a lot quicker. And this time it kind of works well because there's only 2 new releases. And the first one is Skyrim. Never heard of this game, never played this game, it's only come out about 100 times, and love that price point, full priced Skyrim. Now it's Skyrim VR, it's obviously for the Vive, and I think it supports other headsets as well. It's Skyrim, I don't know why people are even bothered, and I can't believe they're charging full price for it, honestly. But the interesting thing as well that I noticed when I was looking through the screenshots is, why do they use the floating hands thing? I never understood this about VR games. I've made VR games, well, one in college, and even then I didn't have floating hands. I just don't understand why, if you want to be immersed, put into into your character, you should be able to look down, see your body, see your hands and stuff. Like, you're using the Vive controllers. I don't see why you can't extend them beyond the reach of your arm. So why can't they have an arm in the game? I just don't get it. So yeah, Skyrim VR. We're not going to spend too long on that. It's got pretty good reviews so far. Skyrim. Another game that came out of it actually came out of early access was Air Mech Strike. Now, I'd never heard of this game until it got recommended to me in our Discord, in our suggestions kind of section. And I thought, you know what, we'll give it a go. It's a free-to-play kind of RTS game. It's hard to explain what it's similar to. You don't really do any building in it. You just kind of, it's almost like a MOBA in a way, but I don't really like MOBAs in a very good way. It's just hard to explain, but hopefully you can see here just from the little bit of gameplay. Kind of, it's just flying around the map right now, but basically you have a mech, and then you kind of fly him around like you would in a MOBA. Like, you have this like kind of leader or whatever that goes around, and then you kind of create your little troops wherever your mech is, and you can like spawn them on different bases and go attack different bases. There's a ranking system, it's 2v2 rankings, 1v1 rankings as well. And apart from the menus and layouts being a bit weird because it's like a free-to-play game, it was actually quite fun to play, and I played it with a friend, and we won some battles, we lost some battles. There's definitely a little bit of a learning curve to... It seems really easy to understand at first, but it's actually like much deeper strategies that I think you can do later on. And it gets pretty interesting. I don't know about the free-to-play kind of economy behind it. Seems like there's a lot of... cosmetics, which is great, but it does seem like there might be a few units that you can buy as well. I'm not too sure. I need to look into it a bit further, but hey, it's free. Give it a try. It's got very positive reviews, 85% positive, over 8,000 reviews. I think generally speaking, it's worth your time if you're into RTS games. So yeah, that's Air Mech Strike. Now, the next thing I wanted to move on to was Jurassic World release date and pre-order. So the pre-orders have been announced for Jurassic World. I thought we could just watch the trailer. It's only about a minute long. We'll just get it playing there. We can just talk over what's going on in the background. But basically, if you're unfamiliar, Jurassic World is being made by Frontier... I'm just going to call them Frontier. I can't remember the last part of their name. Might be Frontier Developments. But Frontier make Planet Coaster. So they've got this really great engine, really great flexible engine for creation, terraforming, messing with the land, placing buildings and things like that. Obviously, Planet Coaster is an excellent little kind of roller coaster tycoon style game. I always felt that the park management aspect was a little bit low in that game, not that interesting. It was more on the creation side. This seems to focus more on the park management, keeping your dinosaurs, you know, enclosed and in cages and taking control of operations and such. A lot more gameplay has come out this week about this game as well. So I highly recommend you check it out if you haven't already. I think Eurogamer has posted some gameplay, and they have some gameplay on their own channel. The only questions I have left are about what happens when dinosaurs get out. Can we see them, you know, really eating people? Can you lose the whole place? Is it almost like a survival in that aspect, or is it much more just kind of like Planet Coaster, oh, but a dinosaur walks around every now and then? So that's what I'm kind of eager to find out, but it looks awesome so far. And they've got like Jeff Goldblum and a few other actors, I think, actually talking to you on the radios and stuff, and some kind of little cameos here and there, it seems, from what I've seen. So it looks quite cool. So it's coming June 12th, and you can pre-order it now. It's on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox One. I thought we'd just quickly take a look at some of the gameplay here. So here's some gameplay where they put it up themselves. Jurassic World Evolution is their YouTube channel, and they just basically show like how they're terraforming the landscapes and putting down trees and enclosures and feeding the goat to like the T-Rex and things like that. It honestly looks great. I kind of need to see more footage of like longer form gameplay. I think some YouTubers are starting to get it, but I'm small time unfortunately, so I haven't got it just yet myself. So it looks very, very promising indeed. A lot of people are referring it to kind of Jurassic Park Operation Genesis back in the day. It's a super old game now, but it does seem to take a lot of cues from that game. And then it just has this awesome Planet Coaster style engine and pad. Like it's coming from a really solid foundation and good studio, so I have really high hopes for this game. Hopefully the park management aspect is a lot more fleshed out to give you a lot of longevity in the game. Okay, so that's pretty much it for Jurassic Park. Moving on to the next story, we have Factorio's price change. So it's not just Factorio's price change. Basically, Factorio is approaching its full release, and Factorio is a kind of a game about making a factory and making automated machines that can make more automated machines, and eventually building a rocket that will go to space and fighting off creatures that inhabit the world as well, a little bit. It's a super popular game on Steam. It's in the overwhelmingly positive category. It's sold millions. It's always one of the highest revenue earners each year on Steam. It's been out for a couple of years now. And it says that essentially soon as it reaches early access, well, I'll just have a little read. So version 0.16 has become stable, and this means that there is one last step for us to reach 0.17, which will probably become 1.0. Then Factorio will finally step out of early access. This will take some months, but the roadmap is clear. We feel that now is a good time to adjust the price of the game. The price of the game has been growing steadily, with the game becoming bigger, more stable, and polished. After careful consideration, we've decided to set the new price of the game of $30, or your regional equivalent. This change will become effective 16th of April 2018, so in just a couple weeks. This is the final Factorio price update unless something unforeseen happens, so it will also be the price for the game for the 1.0 release. Now, as you probably know, we have a strict no sale policy. The game will not go on sale on Steam or any other platform. This basically means purchasing before the 16th of April is the only way to buy the game cheaper than the increased resale release price. So that's very interesting. I thought that it's kind of hard to defer from what they're saying here on talking about sales, just because they have a strict no sale policy, but I would have assumed that was because of early access. Maybe it's just a no sale policy ever. I'm not sure why that's the case, but fair enough if that's what they want to do. So in that regards, the game is going to pretty much, well, not quite double in price, but increase in price quite significantly quite soon. So if you haven't picked up Factorio and you want to get it for a cheaper price, now's the time to do it. It's just after receiving an update, where it's after receiving heavy artillery and more optimizations to the actual game. It looks like a really, really fun game. I've never played it. I know two people that play it personally. One has a couple hundred hours in it, and the other has about 4,000 hours in it. So it's one of these games that I think you can just get really engrossed in and really addicted to. And there's a lot you can just do with it from a kind of a sandbox standpoint as well. The game is also co-op, so you can play it with friends. So I highly recommend checking that out. I've never played it. It might be fun to actually stream this as it approaches its release or something soon. So yeah, Factorio. I mean, the other thing is, even though I haven't played it, it's like a 95% overwhelmingly positive with tens of thousands of reviews. Just get it. You're probably going to end up playing it if you like kind of strategy management kind of games, or you know, games of that nature, city builders and things. All right, so next story is that Valve has removed the Steam Machine section from Steam. Now I'm going to be honest, didn't even know it was there. Because I have no interest in Steam Machines. Steam Machines fall in this really awkward place between being a console and being a PC. I mean, they are PCs, but they try to market themselves as consoles, and they run this Linux operating system geared for Steam. So without really going through too much of this stuff, essentially what they've done is they've removed it from the little hardware tab on Steam. They say that they were actually just removing this as routine. They saw that nobody was clicking, and so they just moved it. They didn't remove the option to buy the hardware from their store. They just removed it from the storefront. from a statement themselves, one of their representatives or employees said, "While it's true that Steam machines aren't exactly flying off the shelves, our reasons for striving towards a competitive and open gaming platform haven't significantly changed. We're still working hard on making Linux operating systems a great place for gaming and applications. We think it will ultimately result in a better experience for developers and customers alike, including those not on Steam." So the interesting thing here is that they've moved away from it. They say they're just taking all this feedback and having a look at what they could do better and kind of reapproaching it. They think that Linux is still the best way to use Steam, you know, and have a closed, well, not really, it's an open platform and an open OS to deliver the best experience for developers and customers. So that's fine. It's just that I still don't really understand the market for, like, I'm a PC gamer. I'd love I guess I wouldn't love a machine that's just dedicated to Steam. I don't know why you'd want that. Obviously, you can do other things as well. I just don't get what this is for, and I think that's been a big issue. It's like, what if you're coming over from console and you want a turnkey solution to getting gaming online and with a PC? Linux is not the way to go. You probably know how to use a PC, and if you just install Steam and even hook it up with the Steam Link to your TV, maybe it's really easy to navigate with a controller. So the biggest hurdle in the way is just getting a Steam Link, and that's extremely easy, and I would recommend that piece of hardware as well. It's extremely easy to set up and use, and loads of games are supporting controllers now because of it. So I just don't know why you'd ever get a Steam machine. They're not that cheap. Anyway, rambling on a bit there, but I'd love to hear your comments about Steam machines. Let me know if you think I've got something wrong about them, but from what I've seen, I can't think of who would want, like, what the benefits are. So yeah, let me know if you think you have any clue. Okay, so next story then. Shadow of War is essentially getting rid of its microtransactions. So obviously last year this game came out with quite a bit of controversy surrounding it. They had microtransactions in what is largely a single player game. Here we are several months later, and they've said, since we released the game last fall, we've been listening to your feedback and continue to update and improve the experience. With that in mind, we'll be releasing a series of free updates in the coming months to offer current fans and new players the best Shadow of War experience we possibly can. While purchasing orcs in the market is more immediate and does provide additional player options, we've come to realize that providing this choice risked undermining the heart of our game, the Nemesis system. It allows you to miss out on the awesome player stories you would otherwise create, and it compromises those same stories even if you don't buy anything. Simply being aware that they are available for purchase reduces immersion in the world and takes away from the challenge of building your personal army and your fortresses. In order to fully restore the core promise of the Nemesis system, we'll be permanently removing gold, war chests, and the market from Shadow of War. This means the option to purchase gold with real-world money and the ability to gain orc followers from war chests will be removed. There will be a specific amount of time given for players to utilize their unused gold, and if they don't, it'll be turned into in-game items. I don't know what else there is to say about this other than this is exactly what people were saying was going to happen, in terms of you're undermining your whole system, you're creating doubt in the community. You can tell us that it doesn't affect the game, but it feels like it'll affect the game, and we have that doubt. And it's just kind of seedy as well. And now they've said, like, it undermines the heart of our game, it allows you to miss the awesome stories, and it compromises those stories even if you don't buy anything. So, yeah. So the question is, why are they doing this now? Obviously, the game's been out. The other thing is, the game's been out a year. It sells like this, and then it'll just taper off. They made all their microtransaction money by this point, and now they've got a big DLC around the corner that they're probably like, wouldn't it be great to have a good story and get people back into our game and eyes back on it? Let's get rid of the microtransaction stuff. What I feel bad for is if you're one of the suckers that put $60 into microtransactions or whatever it was, all that stuff is... that's kind of gone, like, in a way, kind of like you didn't have to do that, and that's been rebalanced and changed now. So that's kind of like a little shitty. Either way, I'm not going to be buying this game. I didn't buy it because of the microtransactions. Totally turned me off the game. I thought the first one was really cool. That turned me off the game completely. I'm not going to be coming back to this game. If they make another game and they say no microtransactions, I'll be like, okay, I'll think about it. This one, too late. you know, too little too late. You made your money. You're not refunding everybody. You're changing the game, making people's purchases pretty much worthless on whatever it was, and then you're just going to sell some DLC and pretend like it's all a good story and that you learned your lesson. So yeah, the permanent removal of gold war chests and the market will take place on July 17, 2018 at the same time as all other updates discussed above. So it's not happening for a few months, but essentially you've no reason now. Imagine now it's like if you were playing the game in the next few months, you wouldn't want to buy a microtransaction, but the game's also not updated. So they just completely screwed their game. It's such a shame, you know. Absolute greed, just greed just ruining everything all the time. It's always about money. It just makes me so sad. It's never about like the game. Okay, so yeah, well, it's a good overall. I think it's a move in the right direction though, to be positive. At least they're not going to have microtransactions going forward. Just don't do microtransactions. Just make a good game and it'll sell. Yeah. All right, let's move on. Next story. This is Spider-Man gameplay. Now, obviously, Spider-Man console exclusive game to PS4. It's a PC gaming channel. You can play PS4 games on your PC using PlayStation Now. I have a video, I'll link it in the description, of how to do that. You just go to PlayStation Now, Google it. I did a video, my last video was about, you know, other gaming options like Origin, Uplay, etc. PS Now is one of them, where I talk about you can play for a fairly pricey subscription. You can play games on PS Now. Now the thing is, you typically can't play brand new releases, so you might not get this for a while, but I don't know, maybe just get a PS4. I think this game looks amazing. I'm not a comic book fan or anything like that, but this game looks pretty incredible. All right, let's have a look.
You gotta feel like Spider-Man more than you've ever done before. It's all about feeling like Spider-Man.
I feel like Spider-Man right now.
Our Spider-Man is obviously a more experienced Spider-Man. He's not just learning how to swing. He swings with a lot of style and a lot of confidence.
He's not, you know, 15 years old.
Let's we don't need to hear what they're saying. It's just bullshit. But you know, the developers always sound enthusiastic before the game comes out. That's great. I don't mean to be mean, but just look at this game. The traversal is just amazing. I mean, these guys, this is Insomniac Studios. They've made Ratchet & Clank, Resistance, and then Sunset Overdrive, I think, on the Xbox. Now they're going back over to PlayStation with the Spider-Man IP. And it seems like they've just taken the engine and just made it for Spider-Man now, or updated it for Spider-Man, because the traversal in Sunset Overdrive was insane. And it just looks so fluid and cinematic at the same time. That's why it looks really, really amazing. So I'm pretty hyped for this game just because I think it just looks fantastic. Game Informer are covering it for this entire month, and they just announced its release date as being September 7th. So we'll leave it at that. You know, if you're a comic book fan, if you're not, this game, I mean, the game looks like that old PS2 Spider-Man game that everyone used to love. As for like what the missions are going to be like and the combat, you can see a little bit of that, but we've only really seen scripted stuff so far. So be interested to see some like uncut, long form let's play on it, you know, to see how it's going, or some gameplay. All right, let's move on. Next story is a bit of a sad one. Essentially, it is Eugen Systems developers are taking their employer to court. They are essentially striking at the studio. So this is written by Fraser Brown over on PCGamer.com. For the last 7 weeks, 21 developers from Steel Division Normandy 44 studio Eugen Systems have been on strike. This follows 15 months of discussions over what they call serious violations of their rights, ranging from their working environment to pay disputes. Our last meeting, quote, our last meeting on Friday, March 23rd lasted only a quarter of an hour, end quote. The update explains, quote, and for good reason. Confronted with systematic rejection from management, we asked whether they would accept to negotiate anything. Their answer was a brief and precise no, end quote. So Eugen's management agreed to certain things in an effort to end the strike. Well, this is very important. I want to rephrase that. So Eugen's management agreed to certain things in an effort to end the strike, but the developers consider these legal obligations. Quote, we should not need such a promise to be sure it is done. The rest of the demands were either ignored or denied, says the developers. Okay. So and the last thing then to note is at the start of the strike, Eugen made a statement denying that it ignored wage laws. It did admit that there had been a problem with pay slips going out on time, but it blamed changes in legislation. It's been keeping stum about the strike since then. And this comes from gamesindustry.biz, and PC Gamer, I believe, reached out to a few people as well. So essentially the same thing here. The striking Eugen workers report that the management is admittedly unwilling to negotiate anything regarding their alleged circumvention of minimum wage laws, neglecting to compensate developers for overtime, and refusal to recognize contractual obligations. So it's obviously a very complicated thing, and there's barely any information out there about what's going on there at the moment. For those who don't know, Eugen Systems, Steel Division, Normandy 44, as well as the war game Red Dragon series. Great games. I love Steel Division myself. Seems like the player base just completely tanked off it though, but I thought it was a really great game. There is a bit of a diehard community there, and they do make DLC for it, so I'm sure it kind of spikes when that kind of stuff comes out, but I thought it was a fantastic game. So this seems really interesting to me just because from what I can gather from both of these articles and a little bit of extra reading I did online, is that it seems like the problem is that they're not getting minimum wage because they're working overtime without getting paid. So for instance, you know, if you're paid a fixed monthly amount and not paid by the hour, and you do a bunch of overtime and your monthly salary hasn't changed, then your minimum wage isn't accurate anymore if you are on roughly a minimum wage or going below that. And that's why they want to take Eugen to court, and they're going to labor court with them now because negotiations have essentially broken down. And by the way, it's only about 20 developers, I think, that are striking at the moment. So they've refused to work, and they're taking them to court over the fact that they're not meeting minimum wage laws. So they're alleging that Eugen are circumventing minimum wage laws, you know, maybe trying to get around it by saying it's overtime or whatever. We don't have their side of the story, like the developer side of the story, so, you know, it's always, you know, a little uprising with the employees is always, you know, something easy to back, but I always want to stay impartial till you know the full story. But generally speaking, people that work in games are criminally underpaid for the work that they do. They're some of, you know, some of the most highly educated people or highly creative people, and then they're paid less just because they're in an environment where a lot of people want to work there, and that kind of drives the price down. And then so yeah, so that sucks. But Eugen aren't exactly some massive developer that rake in all the cash, so it's kind of like a catch-22. If this was EA, it'd be like, what the hell is going on? But who knows what's really going on behind closed doors. So yeah, it's a bit of a shitty time over there. So obviously feel bad for the developers if they feel like they're not being paid accordingly, but they're all keeping really quiet about it. Even these developers, they're not exactly saying what's going on, which makes me kind of think that there's more, you know, more to the actual developer side of things. So just thought it was an interesting one. We don't hear about this too often, but it's kind of interesting. And then the last bit of news then is that Ubisoft are planning on cracking down on toxicity and team killing in Rainbow Six Siege. It's written by Andy Chalk, again on PCGamer.com. Wow, I've used this site a lot. The last one was actually gamesindustry.biz, as well as PC Gamer. So a Rainbow Six Siege blog post, looks at Ubi's long-term toxicity management plan. So chat monitoring has already been underway since mid-March, but Ubisoft also wants to give players the ability to more directly moderate their interactions by allowing anyone to mute individual players' text chat in addition to voice, which has been silenceable for some time. An automated chat filtering system that will censor text chat based on the list of offensive words is on the way as well. It will also track the number of times players trigger the filter, and Ubisoft will take action as necessary for players that are intentionally having a negative impact on other players' gaming experiences. It's not just that dickishness, it's not just chat dickishness that's on Ubisoft's radar. It's also working on improving systems for dealing with intentional team killers, a long-standing issue in Siege. I just thought this was interesting because more and more, I remember Overwatch or Blizzard were talking about this as well, and they partnered with some other studios to combat toxicity in gaming. Overall, it's kind of a good thing in a way that you want to combat toxicity, make the game just more people just talk about the game, focus on the game in the game. But at the same time, it's kind of like, it used to be pretty fun playing, like, I used to play Rainbow Six Vegas a lot growing up. And, you know, people shout abuse in your ear, but you throw it right back, and it's kind of just a bit of a laugh. But these days, you get people that are just super offended at everything, and they're like, oh, you called me gay, so I'm going to, like, you know, get you banned or whatever. So that kind of sucks in it's the same way. And I hate the idea that maybe, I'm not a private person, but I hate the idea that these now in-game chats are going to be monitored, and your voice is going to be recorded, and things like that. It's just a little bit like, you know, they have the option to mute you, and they have the option to mute you in text now in some games, so that should be good enough. If you see someone that's just yelling abuse, I mean, I'm all for making the game, people focus on the game a bit more, but like I also just worry that it'll go too far in the other direction and people will be banned when they're just like, I don't know, making fun of their friends or something, you know, in the lobby where other people are there. Like if I'm with a friend, I typically say some pretty radical things that honestly I shouldn't say given the fact that I have a YouTube channel. But then if we were in a party of 4 and the other 2 were like banning us, even though we're not targeting them, you know, we might be creating a negative impact for them by talking about that stuff. That might, you know, that might not be good. Although you can just use private chat stuff, I guess. So I don't know, I'm of 2 minds. While I think that generally speaking, having no toxic, I never want like someone just to be abusive or annoying and then it's just like contributing nothing to the game. That sucks. But at the same time, it's kind of like freedom of speech in a way where it's just like, yeah, who cares? You're not directly really being affected, really. They don't know you on the other end of the phone or whatever. So why would you ever get offended about anything anyone says? So I don't know. So just thought it was interesting to talk about that. Let me know your thoughts below in the comments. Always appreciate hearing them. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll see you next Thursday. I've got a video on the way for, well, it doesn't really matter. I'll see you next week. Bye.